Hey comic book fans, this is Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and today we're going to a little comic book show just a few miles away from our house. It is another one of the clandestine shows that happen here in Maryland just about every month of the year. This is a special show though. This is a CHUD show, C-H-U-D, comics here for under $1. And it's a real popular show, and it's usually more packed than the regular shows. But how can I resist? The show is only about 8 miles from the house, and I'm getting here a little bit late. We had a late night last night at Amazon and slept in a little bit, but that's okay. We'll go in and we will see what we can find. But to make it more interesting today, I'm going to put myself on a kind of a test, a little test here. We're going to do a $50 challenge, maybe less, depending on what I find. But what we're going to do is try to find books that have a lot more value than just $1. I mean, whether you get them graded or you just add them raw to your PC, but we're going to try to find some really good keys for only $1, and we'll see how we do. And we'll come back, I'll shoot some footage from the show. I'll come back, we'll go over the books that I hope to pick up, and we'll talk about if this was successful or not, and basically do a review of the show itself, and we'll see how we go. So sit back, enjoy some of the footage from the show, and I'll see you in a moment. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed some of the footage from the show. I didn't shoot a lot, mostly because I started getting into the boxes and realized that I'm running short on time. I had to get to work today. So I cut my time short. I made my rounds, saw some of the people that I know. Ended up picking up a big batch of comic books. They're all sitting right here beside me on the couch. And we'll just go through them real quick. But before I get going, let me tell you that I'm going to revise what I said at the very beginning. Originally, this was going to be a $50 challenge, but to find really good keys, minor keys that could be pretty valuable. And once I got in there, I realized I just threw that out the door. I was finding some things that I thought might be valuable, but I started finding things that I just wanted. So we're just going to scrap that idea at the beginning. We're just going to go with, these are some pretty cool books. There's some nice little keys in here, and maybe they do have some value, but we're not going to worry about that too much here. We're just going to go through the books and just enjoy it. But before we begin, definitely guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please reach out, click the like, slap the subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my episodes. I put these out every Monday and Friday at 10 a.m. and I'm usually on there live to chat with people on there. So definitely join me at that time and we can have a good conversation about the comics that I'm presenting or other things. Usually the shows are anywhere from 10 minutes to 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if it's a really big show. But at least I like talking with you guys, and I love hearing what kind of books you're collecting and what I might be interested in too. I love these books. I love the books I get, and I show them off to you. But let me know what you guys get. That'd be awesome. Anyway, I'm rambling. Again, I always say that. I'm rambling a lot. But let's just get into the books. It's a big batch, and I'm just going to go through them quickly. You guys have probably seen many of these books, and you know the significance, and I will talk about a few of them just real quick if I go through it, but we'll just go through the batch. And as I said, this was a clandestine comics, little Comic Con, the comic show. It was in Laurel, Maryland. And it's called, this particular one is called CHUD, C-H-U-D. It is comics here for $1. And that's what the books were. In fact, there was a lot of bins there that were for 50 cents or less. And so you can find some really good run fillers, but you can also find some decent keys. And sometimes you can find some good value in some of those, especially if you're going to intend to get something graded too. But that will be down the road. We'll just go through the books and I'll show you what I picked up. Let's just start right here. This is Avengers West Coast number 56. You've got the Evil Wanda. Of course, we saw that in the Multiverse of Madness. I picked up this. This is Daredevil number 6. I don't know which year this is, but I didn't buy it for that particular reason. I bought it because it is a beautiful Bill Sienkiewicz cover. I keep picking this up every time I go someplace, and I keep thinking it's going to be more valuable than it really is. I've bought this before, but for $1, I'll pick this up. This was New Teen Titans. It is a Keebler Company presents DC Comics, and I want to say it's a story about drug abuse by young adults, young children, and of course drawn by George Perez. Marv Wolfman wrote this. This was right in the middle of their classic historic run on the New Teen Titans. Here are some books that actually I think if you want to talk about getting graded, if they grade out to those 9.8s, they're actually worth a good amount of money. Not a huge amount, but a good amount. Marvel Presents number 83, Marvel Comics Presents number 83, Weapon X Program, and 84, and 82. Usually when I go to a comic show or a comic shop and I find these, and if they're still in really good shape, sometimes you'll see a $5 price tag on there, sometimes you'll find a 10, but for $1, I'll buy that. This right here was a Detective Comics number 608. I think this is the first appearance of Anarchy. I could be mistaken on that, but again, for $1, how can you go wrong? And let me put these down because they're going to stack up fast here, guys. I picked up pretty decent copies, not gradable, I don't think, especially this first one. This Green Arrow, The Longbow Hunters by the brilliant Mike Grail. And I picked up issues. It's a 2-issue miniseries. It's in this prestige format. And I've got this somewhere in a PC, but I cannot find it. I've gone over a year and I can't find it. And I keep seeing Mike Grail at Comic-Cons, whether it's in Baltimore or Charlotte. And I know he's going to be in Baltimore this September. I hope I could have found my original copies because I know they're in pretty good shape. But I did pick these up. And again, you go to a comic shop, you're going to be paying $5 to $10 for one of these. So definitely this is something I may hold on to, get Mike Grail to sign those when we come to Baltimore here in, I guess it's middle of September this year. I did pick up a classic X-Men number 9. This was reprinting X-Men 101, the first issue, the first story with Phoenix, and this is the Art Adams. Bought it for the cover. It's an Art Adams cover. And let's see, I picked up this. This is the Black Widow run with J.G. Jones doing the art on there. This is the series that basically featured the new Black Widow and the old Black Widow. This is issue number 2. Again, this is not the valuable issue in that. I know in issue number 1, and I think there's 2 different variations of that cover, is probably the premiere book, but J.G. Jones is going to be back in Baltimore this year, and I will take this, probably get signed if I can get the other copies. In fact, I think I've got issue number 1 already signed, but I want to say there was 3 issues in this little series, maybe 4. So I may take all of those to get the whole run signed by J.G. Jones. All right, now that was all from one particular vendor, but this next one, it is a big batch, and I'll try to go through a little bit faster, but I want to take a moment to start with the very first one here. I picked up a copy of The Badger. This is issue number 8. I had most of these issues, but what a fun run. I think this was it Eclipse? No, First Comics back in the 80s. Mike Barron, right? I think this is right. Mike Barron wrote these. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think I'm correct. And I know I thought of Bronze and Modern Gods when I picked this up, because I know that keeps getting mentioned on there. People should love The Badger. I mean, what a fun series. So I thought of those guys when I saw that. Let's see. And then the rest of this is going to be a hodgepodge of first appearances or I should say first issues and just cover art that's just fantastic. First issue from Eclipse Comics of Sabra. And I think, yeah, this is a Paul Gulacy artwork book. I probably would have got that anyway. I love Paul Gulacy on Masters of Kung Fu. I think he did, Batman Legends, the Prey storyline that was really, really good. Early Batman adventures that he did. What was it? We had 007 was really good, but there's all kinds of, he's got so much work, and I don't think I've ever read this, but issue number 1, I picked that up. Starfire number 1, this is from the mid-70s. This is a book I remember seeing over the years, but I'd never had it. I did pick up a copy of Modern Comics E-Man number 1. It's not in the best of shape, and I had tried to stay and get really good books when I was picking these things out, but I kind of wanted to get another copy of E-Man number 1, and I thought I had one when I went to Heroes Con this year. Joe Staunton was there, and I had issues 2 and 3, and I had him sign those, but I kind of wanted to get at least the first issue as well. So this isn't the best copy of it, but for $1, I'll hold on to it, and if I see him again in another show, I'll probably take that to get it signed. Here's a book. You never know some of these 80s licensed properties. This is Atari Force number 1. You never know where people might have interest in this. I mean, I don't even know what this is graded. I don't even know if it's that popular, but I can't imagine there being too many graded versions of this, but this was a really nice copy. All right, I'll set those down. Picked up Superman Annual and it's Action Comics Annual number 6. This is from 1994. This is one of those Elseworlds tales. I guess it was if Superman had landed during the Revolutionary War. Kind of interesting because you got this great Mike Mignola artwork. I think this is a book that actually does pretty good on there. I would suspect it does pretty good if you got this graded. I did pick up a new... You can't go to a dollar show and not run into tons of early Image Comics and Valiant. Just tons of Valiant. But I did pick up a few things from Image. We've got Cyberforce number 1. And I know I've got something else in here, but we'll get to that. I think I ended up picking up a Liefeld's, what was it, Youngblood as well. Let's see, number 1 issue of Firefly from Boom Studios. And I just picked that up. I never really cared for Firefly as some people did. But number 1 issue, just go ahead and pick it up. This is number 1 Robin from 1993. This is the Spectre, number 1, and if I recall, this is a glow-in-the-dark cover. And I know there's been some spec on some of the books in this series recently, but I haven't seen number 1 pop up very much. But I went ahead and picked up another number 1. This right here is an ash can. It's X-Men 75-cent ash can edition. I've seen its art before. It is a Bill Sienkiewicz illustration. I don't know anything about this, but I love Bill Sienkiewicz, so I went ahead and picked that up. And here's another X-Men book that was relatively recent. This is Astonishing X-Men number 17, the variant cover. And this was completely a Alex Ross cover right here. That cover by. That's the only reason I bought that book. And that was not for speculation. That's just, God, you gotta love Alex Ross on some of these things. And there's some of these, like this, it's an underappreciated cover, but wow, that is really good. All right. And as I said, I picked up a giant batch. I'm not sure what this is from. This is a Jim Lee illustration. I guess this is a sketchbook cover of something, but it is a Jim Lee illustration of Magic. So we'll have to dig into that and see what that really is. I picked up this because this has got some news in the recent MCU news, is that they've cast this character. This is Spider-Woman, this version of Spider-Woman. And I think, like I said, in the Madam Web movie that they're going to make, they've already cast this person. So I picked up an extra copy. I know I've got it in my PC, but couldn't hurt. Can't go wrong with Thunderstrike, guys. Tom DeFalco, Ron Frenz, and I'm not sure who did the inking. I don't think Sal Buscema did, but Ron Frenz and Tom DeFalco. In fact, I think I've got this signed by DeFalco and Frenz. Have to go back and look at that. Here is Uncanny Inhumans number 5, the variant edition, but this is a Michael Cho cover, and again, another complete cover by. Maybe I'll hold on to that for Heroes Con next year and take the chance that Michael Cho show up there again. He's really a nice guy. He didn't charge for autographs. He's just selling prints. And I have several of those. Last year we ended up getting my daughter a Harley Quinn print that he had done from one of the covers of one of the DC books. And I picked up an X-Men poster print that was just fantastic. And he signed all that. And of course, you pay for the prints, then he just signs them. This year we stopped by, I had a couple books, and he just signed them for free, and he actually did a sketch for my wife that she had taken some sketch cards, and he did a sketch, I think, of the Incredible Hulk, real quick though, and signed it, and she took that into one of her coworkers who was really excited to hear where she was going to be going back in June. And so he ended up getting a nice little sketch card out of that. Oh, I ended up picking up some more issues of Justice. And now again, we got Alex Ross artwork here. This is a book that I had just picked up recently, and I talked about on one of my shows when I went to the Antique Mall, and I picked up the 2 variations of issue number 1, the Heroes version and the Villains version. I had never read any of these, but again, just fantastic Alex Ross art. You've got Justice number 4. Justice number 5. You know, it's funny, I just recall this. I was just watching Jim from Bronzeville Comics do a yard sale bin. I mean, he ended up with a ton of books. I think 2, short boxes, long boxes. I mean, it was a lot of books. And I remember, I think I saw this book in the batch that he picked up. So I actually I don't have all those issues, but I will sit down and go through them and see. I may end up having to get the whole series at some point. This right here is Justice League Gods and Monsters number 1. I'm not sure. I mean, we got DeMathis, we got Bruce Timm doing the artwork on this, and this is one of my favorite Justice League DC animated movies. In fact, actually more than the movie itself, if you ever go on YouTube, look up Gods and Monsters Justice League, and you've got some shorts on there that they introduce all 3 of these variations of the Trinity. And these are not our Trinity that we all love. It's not Clark and Bruce and Diana. These are completely different variations, and just absolutely, you can do so much more when you're not hindered by the history of a character like this. Create something new, and I always enjoy that. But go to YouTube and look it up and enjoy those shorts that they did on those. Here is War of the Realms number 1, a variant edition, and I want to say, is this a Del Auto cover? I don't know. But again, saw it, liked it, bought it. Got a couple issues of Fury, and these I bought completely in cover buys. This is from Marvel Max. These were Bill Sienkiewicz covers. And again, the only reason I bought that was it was Bill Sienkiewicz artwork. But we'll sit down and we'll read those a little bit. And I never had read those, but can't go wrong with Bill Sienkiewicz. I kind of chuckled to myself when I picked this one up. As I said, they had a lot of Image Comics, they had a lot of Valiant, and I probably have this on my PC, but I couldn't pass getting another Homage Studios swimsuit edition. It was such a weird thing. Let's do pinup bikini shots of all of our fabulous babes that we draw. I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand, but what happened? I didn't pass it up. I took another copy of it. We've got The Death of Superman. Can't go wrong picking those up occasionally. It's so mass-produced, but what an iconic cover. I probably have already missed the Dan Jurgens signing deadlines for CGC. This would have been nice to send in. I think it was, I don't know if Brett Bretting, I know it was Jurgens and Brett Bretting, I think, are going to be at CGC. That would have been nice to get signed. Oh, I did pick up a second copy. I didn't realize it, of Spider-Woman. And all of these, for the most part, have been in really good condition. So if there ends up being value on them, maybe at some point we'll get them cleaned and pressed and send them to CGC. I sort of doubted on most of this. Both of this was smaller stuff and just fun. Again, this was a cover buy. This is Action Comics number 37, and kind of like having Darwin Cook artwork in the collection. These are just beautiful illustrations. This was a sideways cover. I should do it this way. Or is it that way? Yeah, it's that way. And this was Action Comics number 52. This is part of the new 52. That was more of a cover buy for me. I thought there was some significance to this, but again, for $1, just take a shot. Get a book and enjoy it, right, guys? I mean, we do try to... Do we always have to worry about the value that we put on these books all the time? I mean, can we not just sit down and enjoy a comic book occasionally? We can, but I think a lot of us just do a little of both. This, again, was a cover buy. I'd never seen this. This is Action Comics number 41 with Superman, and you got a Darwin Cook Superman and Joker on there. I did pick up the 1000th issue of Action Comics with a Jim Lee cover. That looked like... It's a nice hardbound... Excuse me. Yeah, hardbound book. Hardbound... what is that? Perfect prestige format. But it looked really nice. I don't know if that's gradable. I don't even know if it's that popular right now. Gen 13, number 8. This was probably one of my favorite covers from that series. Of course, you got Fairchild right there in the front, looking fantastic. And this is... Yeah, this is Jim Lee artwork right there. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I picked up Sandman number 1, The Gallery of Dreams, by Neil Gaiman. Now, I've already sent in my books to get signed by Neil Gaiman at CGC. It was pretty expensive, so I only did 2 books, so we'll see how that does. One of them is definitely for the PC, and the other one is most likely going to be for resale if it grades out the way I want it to, but you'll have to stay tuned for a future video on that. I did pick up another... Oop, I'm about ready to drop everything. Another copy of this. This is such mass-produced. It's 0 Hour, number, well, 0. And, of course, it was a sketch cover, white cover. And I don't know why I bought this. In my mind, this had a little bit of value. This was a beautiful illustration on the cover. Again, another cover by Art Adams, Guardians of the Galaxy number 4 with Rocket right there. I thought that was just a beautiful cover. So, I bought that. Picked up a couple really nice copies of the Savage Dragon number 1. I want to say this was not the first series, or I'm not sure. I'd have to go back because I know there was a couple of different number 1s, but I picked up 2 copies of that, and that black cover is pretty tough. Paper wasn't all that great, so I don't know if it's going to be gradable or not, but we'll see. And I did pick up another copy of Savage Dragon number 2. Of course, you've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on there. And this is a book that I have found at Ollie's in some of their mystery sampler packs. So, there you go. And there was some older stuff there that, again, you saw the Starfire book from mid-70s DC. I found some other things. This is first issue special. I don't know which issue this is, but it introduces Atlas. And that definitely looks like some Kirby artwork with some weak inking on there. Beowulf Dragon Slayer number 1. Again, just fun things to throw into PC. The conditions look really good. If it was really crappy conditions, I kind of passed on it. But in some of these, like, it's kind of cool. Kind of cool to have some of these mid-70s invisible books. Books that you just don't think about. They didn't have a big popularity or anything, but because of the age and now the condition on some of these, they can become a little bit more desirable. Here's that issue of Youngblood. And I did not send this in. Well, I did my copy. I did not send that in for the Liefeld signing. I did send in a couple of books. And I'm going to have to think what I sent in. I know one of them. But again, that'll be for a future video at some point. What was the second book? I have no idea. But, oh, I know what. Yeah, I know what it was. It should grade out really well, I'm hoping. And that should be a really good book to have in the PC. This is some more Jack Kirby. Late Jack Kirby. This is from Topps Comics. It is Captain Glory. Not a lot of value in that, but what a classic Jack Kirby pose. You've seen this pose from Thor and Captain America and probably countless other heroes, this forced perspective. This right here is a book that I might have this. And I'm not sure which issue. Which issue? Yeah, it is issue number 1. It is a reprint from European Comics, but it is Torpedo. And I want to go, this is Alex Toth. No, I'm messing this up. I had read this. I had read these back in the late 80s as they were reprints from European Comics, and I'm blanking. I want to say Alex Toth. That's not right. I don't think that's right. So forgive me. I can't think of what it is, but I love reading Torpedo. Back then, I'm going to take this out and enjoy reading this as well. And this is the last book from this particular vending. This is from Groundbreaking Comics. He is I don't want to say he's local, but he's definitely a regional vendor, and he sets up at just about every show in this area. And he was just down in Charlotte as well. So he travels, and basically this is a full-time thing. So ended up, he had a lot of great books, but this is the last one. It's just The Defenders #1. This is the Matt Fraction series with Terry Dotson. Again, it was simply just a #1 issue, and I just picked it up to have in the PC. I didn't have this when it came out. Not a big book or anything. But that was all from Groundbreaking Comics. And as you can see, if you've done the count so far, you know I've already gone over that $50 mark, because in the last batch right there, it was already 50. There was 46 books there. There was another 11 or 10 from the first dealer. And then I looked at the time and I realized, okay, 2 things are happening. One, I'm running out of time because I had to get out of there and get to work. And I still hadn't really done the whole room. So, and the other thing was I didn't do a lot of filming. You noticed that I did not take a lot of shots of the room. And part of it was it's a very small hotel room, ballroom, dining hall, whatever you want to call it, conference room. And he had vendors all over the place. But did you see that crowd? You could hardly get into any box at any one time. And basically, if you got a spot, you just needed to stay there and shuffle to the left or the right and keep going around. And I didn't have time to go through every box in that room. I'm sure there was a lot of other great stuff, but everything was $1. And people were going nuts over it. And I felt like I controlled myself, and I still spent probably, what I spent, about $65 altogether. But then I determined, okay, I'm not going to do any more filming. There's too many people in here. I cannot get you good shots of the comics. And this is not your normal comic show where you would have prime keys on a display behind you or anything like that. Only a few people had displays behind them. Everything was just in bins, in comic bins, and people were just digging through the boxes. So I didn't think that footage would be very good, and kind of boring. And honestly, when people flip through a book on any of these YouTube shows, I don't know. Maybe I'm just impatient when I do the filming. That I don't think you get a lot from that. Maybe because you either do too much of it or not enough. And honestly, I'd rather sit down and show you the books that I got rather than bore you with the thumbing through of a short box or something. But anyway, I did manage to stop back by one vendor right before I went, and I was like, okay, just take a look to see if there's anything that pops out. And actually, yeah, it did. He had a nice run of some books, and I've got all of these, and in fact, I've got the very first one here graded. I got a 9.6 on it. That was my copy. I want to say I had that copy in bought it in the early 90s, but it was from the early mid 80s. And they're all from Capital Comics from the mid 80s, early 80s. We got Nexus, Mike Barron, Steve Rude. This is issue number 1. This is not a 9.8 Canon. There is a little tick over there, but as I said, I got my copy graded. I think I've got a 9.6 on it. Kind of like to have this. Guys, if you ever read Nexus, I love Steve Rude is one of my favorite artists. He was very influential to me back when I was in college in the late 80s. Somebody I took inspiration from as a art student, and somebody who wanted to kind of be I basically wanted to be an illustrator. And I took inspiration from a lot of the comic artists that I really liked back in the day. And as strange as it may seem, one hand you've got Steve Rude, and then you switch over and you've got Howard Chaykin from his American Flag books that was very influential. And then to take it even a step further, you had Bill Sienkiewicz, that the artwork was just blowing up. And I love these styles, and I loved exploring them, because I did do a sequential art. It wasn't an internship. I guess it was a study program back in college, and independent study, that's what it was, an independent study. I formed my own course, and I did a recreation. In fact, I've got a recreation of one of Steve Rude's pages. Actually, I did one of Bill Sienkiewicz as well. But maybe one day I'll break out some of that art. I did a really beautiful recreation of Barry Windsor Smith. There's a page from his Machine Man run that I absolutely loved, and I think I did a really good job of recreating that. But again, we're going off track. Love some Steve Rude, but he had issues number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And these were all, I've got all these books, but I don't know. Sometimes you just buy something because you love it, and I didn't need to buy these. In fact, I was probably just going to get number 1, but because they had all 5 of them there, the original ones from Capital Comics, I figured just go ahead and get the books and be done with your day. Get out of the room, go home, get ready for work, and that's pretty much what I did. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, I'm sorry that I switched it up from the intro where I was going to talk about speculation on this, but this ended up being much more of just a fun day to go get some good comics, find maybe some value in some of them, but to have some fun things that you can read and enjoy having in your collection. I know I had fun. I wish I could have spent some time there a little bit longer, but we all have to do what we can, and that's what we did today. But that's it for today. Last spiel for today is, if you guys are ever interested in any of the books that have on my shows here, definitely reach out to me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com or DM me on Instagram if you're ever interested in anything. I do have an eBay page and a short box page that you can check out. I'll leave all those links in the description below. I don't want to bore you with that, but definitely I've got a lot of great books for sale. So guys, just check it out, and if you're interested, give me a contact. But I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you for the next episode. And guys, remember, every comic has a story.